All right. It's almost time. This is the only. There's too much chat going on here. There we go. This is the only debate. The only debate in this race, and the only debate this year that really matters. No, it's not true, but still. Gonna be a good debate tonight. So, we'll do some some pregame here. Talk a bit about Fetterman, about Oz, about this race. Go over maybe some clips before this debate begins of stuff that I've covered up till now with the big man and the freak. So, also, I got like two backups in case this one goes down, an audio backup. Anything can happen. Anything can happen, especially with a debate that I think is going to be widely watched. So that's the problem. I just realized this green screen is not doing its job right here. Give me a second. Brighten this light up. No, that's the wrong side. This side? 60%? Man, these are bright ass lights. Whatever. Good enough. Good enough. It's my attention to detail here that gives me a problem. I just see a little fuzziness at the bottom, but whatever. It's fine. It's fine. It will be. I'll just put my hand right there. You see nothing. All right. Man. So you all have to keep me abreast of the situation. Let me know when. Is that the right terminology? Abreast. Keep me abreast of what's going on. Just keep me on time. Got to make sure we're here at 8. Right here at 8. So keep that in mind. But all right. So this is what. Maybe just some headlines here from New York Times. What they're watching for, meaning what the mainstream press is watching for, what they'll be talking about. So how Fetterman sounds. So he is still recovering from his stroke. He has to use, let's see here, I think closed captioning to be in this debate. Still has difficulty processing spoken words. He will read the two moderators' questions and Dr. Oz's responses on large monitors with closed captions. The Fetterman campaign warned that the accommodation could slow down his responses, and it worries that Republicans will try to make snippets of the debate go viral with Mr. Fetterman pauses. So they say this, but also according to the Oz campaign, they are shifting away from Fetterman's health because it, I guess, didn't work out for them when they were doing that. So they got a lot of backlash for, he had a stroke. I think 2 other senators this year had strokes. They're fine. Fetterman survived. He's getting better. He still has, he still needs some help when it comes to communicating, but that will improve with time. And of course, his mind is still there. His positions haven't changed. So as long as he is able to properly function, do his job, and hold the same positions, there's no problem here. It's all just, a bunch of hot air. But apparently they're shifting away, so we'll see that if that's true in this debate. Also, yes, I'm sure this will come up. Who's the real Pennsylvanian? So the fact that Dr. Oz is not from Pennsylvania, I'm sure will come up. That hopefully Fetterman focuses on how out of touch Oz is, how much money he has, and not just the money. It's what he has done with his power in terms of being a snake oil salesman, selling a bunch of garbage on his show, and eventually having to admit to it. So that shows you the kind of character that Oz is. He's after power. That's what Oz is doing here. He's after power. He's after fame. He's after attention. He doesn't actually give a shit about anybody, and that's very clear from how he's conducted himself his entire career. But hopefully there's a focus on that. Attacks over abortion. I'm sure, of course, abortion will also come up. Oz will attempt to attack Fetterman on crime because this is a very stupid talking point that never goes away. The only real solution here to crime is a systemic one, is to ensure that people are not put into a situation where they are given no opportunities, where they may fall into the wrong crowd, meet the wrong people, go down the wrong path. You have to prevent that from happening by investing into society. You see this around the world. Look at European countries. Really look outside your borders. Learn, grow. This is how, countries should operate. Is, hey, who's doing this properly? Who has a good handle on this? Oh, what are they doing? Oh, interesting. Maybe we should try that. As opposed to, continued cuts, continued just screwing people, low wages, long hours, overworked, and in many cases, of course, complete lack of opportunity. So, yeah, we will see how that discussion goes. Oz may bring up the fact that Fetterman hired 2 people who were convicted of murder, but then they were exonerated because they didn't do anything. And Fetterman cares about people, gives them opportunities. So we'll see if Oz is a piece of shit and continues that line of attack, even though there's nothing there. But I don't know. Energy and fracking. So I don't know. We'll see that discussion. Fetterman is a great candidate, but I'm not with him on every position. So some of these discussions, there may be no winner in my mind. But regardless, if you're in Pennsylvania, there's not even a debate here. I hope it's clear that Fetterman is your guy. And I've seen I'm not gonna find it out, but I saw a video with voters in Pennsylvania, and a lot of independents were siding with Fetterman and thought that Oz, came off phony, isn't from the state, that Fetterman attack line is working. So we will see how important the independent vote is. It rests on people actually coming out to vote, of course, which can be a problem, especially in a midterm. But with the amount of eyeballs, attention on this race, I tend to think 10 more minutes. I tend to think that turnout's going to be higher than normal for a midterm. All right. Now, Sam Cedar's right bicep became a member. Thank you. How about the left bicep now? We got the right bicep. Let's get the left bicep, and then we can go on to the legs and the feet. So become a member if you want to. And, of course, hit subscribe below the video. That's completely free. But you can also join on YouTube or join on Patreon or join on Twitch or do all 3. I'm just saying, if you want to, you don't have to, but you can. Someone said Fetty Wap. It's funny because I was listening to Fetty Wap today. Just randomly. But hey, here's a chat. Sam Cedar's right bicep. Has there been any serious case of recidivism from these related prisoners? No. They were wrongly jailed for years. Because they were the getaway car for their friend, and they didn't realize that they were. Their friend just was like, hey, come wait out here, and I'll be out in a second. And their friend goes, I believe, goes in and kills somebody, and then, takes the car away. So I believe that that's, the bulk of that story and why eventually they were released. And yeah, people should be given opportunity. That's how you have these repeat offenders, is when they come out and there is no opportunity. They're just outcasts from society. Where do you expect them to turn if they have no one to go? Nowhere to go. But all right. So I brought up some links here. So these are my videos on Fetterman, as you can see, mostly Fetterman Oz. Let me pull a couple out here. So this was when Fetterman gave Dr. Oz a nickname in a campaign ad. Let's, I think I have the actual link here somewhere. There we go.
This is John.
Also, in case there's any problems with the audio, I downloaded an app. So this time, no more complainers. If you're complaining about the audio, I can actually raise it this time. All right. So, I mean, I guess, yes, if the audio is low on the debate, let me know. I will raise it. But I came prepared this time.
Fetterman, it's a fundamental choice that we have here. I'm This is John Fetterman. It's a fundamental choice that we have here. I only got involved in politics to make my town, then Pennsylvania, a better, safer place. He just moved here to run for office.
Dr. Oz moved in with his mother-in-law to qualify for the race.
Do you want someone that's all about North Jersey? Look, he's not one of us. He says he'll fight for working people. Okay. Hey, Doc Hollywood, save your money. Pennsylvania is not for sale. I'm John Fetterman, and I approve this message.
Fetterman should call him Doc Hollywood during the debate. Because I think that's a great nickname. It kind of sets the tone of, you know, who Oz is, how he is both not from Pennsylvania, but also not someone that has the interests of voters in mind. He is a TV doctor. I mean, he's a real surgeon, obviously, but he's also a TV doctor. That's where his money was made. His wife, a television producer, of course, that's what helped him get the job. His father, also very wealthy, also a doctor. So Oz had, you know, every advantage handed to him, and which is, you know, you can't pick and choose where you're going to be born, who your parents are. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with being born, however you're born, into whatever family. It's what you do with that power and that privilege when you have it. If you use that power to then serve the elite and continue pushing down on those who were not given the opportunities that you were, then you can go after yourself. So that's what Oz represents. That's who he is. Hopefully that comes through in tonight's debate. 8 minutes. Let the countdown start. Cat67 gives me a good job with a thumbs up. Thank you. I appreciate it. Of course, super chats are encouraged, welcomed even. So if you are so inclined, I will, and if it's during the debate, I'm going to wait till after the debate. I'm not going to, you know, interrupt the debate. But after the debate, I will go through super chats. And also, I'm going to make notes during this debate and do maybe a bit of a summary afterwards. And I can't, you know, I'm one person. I can't record highlights and play them back, but I will mention important moments and what happened. Also here, what else? So this was 4 months ago. Fetterman releases first ad, takes shot at Dr. Oz. Let's check this out.
You good? People have been trying to label me my entire life. I do not look like a typical politician. I don't even look like a typical person.
John Fetterman knows Pennsylvania through and through. From York, played football in Reading, raising his family in Braddock, a steel town. He's looked different and been different his entire life. As mayor, Fetterman helped rebuild his town. As lieutenant governor, he reformed the office. Now the big guy is running for Senate to take on Washington.
This is a race for the future of every community across Pennsylvania. For every small town or person that's felt left behind. For every job left and factory closed. For every person that works hard but can't get ahead as costs keep rising. Those decisions were made for us by people that don't know us. And that's exactly who we're running against. Pennsylvania is our home, and it's worth fighting for. I'm John Fetterman, and I approve this message.
How about that? So that was the first debate he released after winning the primary. Yes, he's tall. Someone said, what was that comment? David on Fetterman. I'm not going to play my commentary. That'd be a little too weird. But I just want to go through some of these ads. We still got time. 4 minutes. It's not like a Madonna song. 4 minutes. Can't play it. Copyright. What else we got here? I'm not, just in case there's any copyright issue with The Simpsons, I'm not going to play The Simpsons one. But, of course, that video, that was amazing. Maybe Fetterman's best ad, even though I believe it was just for social media. But comparing Dr. Oz to Dr. Nick from The Simpsons, so funny. What else here? Oh, yeah, crudite. Crudite. Hey, look, I'm wearing the same shirt here. Crudite. let's remind ourselves about the crudite. We got 3 minutes for crudite. Here we go. Here's some crudite. Here is Dr. Oz going grocery shopping. Here is Dr. Oz going grocery shopping.
Grocery shopping. I'm at Wegner's, and my wife wants some vegetables for crudite, right? So here's a broccoli. That's $2. Not a ton of broccoli there. Here's some asparagus. That's $4. Yep. And carrots. That's $4 more. That's $10 of vegetables there. And then we need some guacamole. That's $4 more. And
I love my broccoli with guacamole, let me tell you. Guacamole and salsa. That's the only way to have broccoli.
she loves salsa. Yeah, there's salsa there. $6. Must be a shortage of salsa. Guys, that's $20 for crudite, and this doesn't include the tequila. I mean, that's outrageous. We got Joe Biden to thank for this.
How can you possibly afford your crudite nowadays? With this guacamole and these broccoli prices. It's crazy. Yeah, a veggie platter. We're almost there. Oh, I guess it's starting. Let's just do it.
And Mehmet Oz go face to face on one stage tonight.
Let me know how the
Join us
volume
for this
is.
exclusive live debate as the candidates for Pennsylvania's U.S. Senate seat square off.
It's a critical race. We're taking your questions to the candidates. Hear what they have to say about issues that matter to you. The Pennsylvania U.S. Senate debate tonight at 8, only on ABC 27. Your local election.
All right, I'm hearing
headquarters.
louder.
I was a teacher. I was
Ads.
I used to be an X-ray.
Okay, they're still doing ads.
I love being a security.
I mean, we got 2
I was a
minutes,
bus driver.
so
I miss being a nurse.
I don't need to see whatever this is. So I forget Fetterman's response to this. I see for myself how expensive groceries are. Whenever I guess his wife and I go to Giant Eagle or Aldi's. Dr. Oz does not have a plan to bring these prices down. This I just realized this is a hilarious screenshot. I'm like looking at me reading a tweet. So yeah, his initial response was more about, the actual issues, because Fetterman actually, cares about the issues. And then I think at some point he clowned him. But and yeah, he got the name wrong, which is when you are being criticized for not being from that state, to get the name of the grocery store wrong, that is a Pennsylvania grocery store, it's just you're serving up like you're serving up the attack ads for the other candidate. It really is wild. 2 more look at this. There's an ad for Oz before the debate. This is some bullshit. Vincent Owens says, "We will see who is the master debater." Lawn Gnome says, citing your own opinions and previous commentary, "What are you, a Supreme Court justice? Looking forward to Looking forward to some highlighted rational national priorities." I'm not even completely sure what you're writing there, Lawn Gnomes, but I think I'm just reading this in the wrong voice. But I'm hoping to actually take tomorrow off. So, if nothing happens in this debate, would actually be a good thing for me personally. But I'm probably gonna have to do something to cover this. Are we starting now?
Senate race now a spectacle.
He chose money over.
Oh yeah, you want the volume up? All right, let's do it.
opponent, John Fetterman, by his own admission, grew up in luxury and privilege.
Insult stealing the spotlight while voters
How
want a
can you
voice on the issues.
I'm thinking about women's rights.
How can you say that?
I'm looking for civility.
I think public health is most important.
Our leaders are
Looking
not
for
leaders
civility
at
is
all.
Tonight,
what an
Lieutenant
idiot.
Governor John Fetterman and Dr. Mehmet Oz face to face for the first and only time. Both men looking to prove
Anyways, I'm not gonna-
they have what it takes to
I'm not going to talk too much over this, just so you know. But if I have to, I will.
Back to New Jersey.
I stand for Pennsylvania values, and I'm proud of it.
Live from the ABC 27 studios in Harrisburg, this is the Pennsylvania U.S. Senate debate. Welcome to Debate Night in America. I'm Leland Vittert from News Nation. The stakes tonight could not be higher, not only for the Keystone State, but for the country. Control of the U.S. Senate for either party runs through Pennsylvania. Dennis Owens, WHTM political reporter and anchor here in Harrisburg, along with Lisa Sylvester from WPXI
There's no audience.
in Pittsburgh, will moderate tonight's debate. We want to welcome our viewers watching tonight from across the country on News Nation. Voters can watch this debate in all 67 Pennsylvania counties on 9 television stations serving the Commonwealth. Before we get started, let's go over tonight's rules. Mr. Fetterman, Mr. Oz, you will have 60 seconds to answer each question. If there's a follow-up question or rebuttal, you will have up to 30 seconds. Each candidate will also have 90 seconds for a closing statement.
It's not enough time.
When your time is
whatever.
up, you'll hear this bell. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Dennis and Lisa.
Thank you, Leland. Good evening, candidates who moments ago just met for the first time. We're happy to have you here. Welcome to our audience watching at home, on air, online, and on News Nation. And we encourage everyone who is watching tonight to share your thoughts on social media. Remember to use the hashtag PA Senate Debate.
And you may notice these large monitors that are behind us. This is part of our closed captioning system. It was requested by John Fetterman to help him process the questions that we are asking him tonight, and approved by both campaigns, and both candidates can see the monitors.
One of the screens will show only the questions being asked tonight. The second screen will caption the questions and responses from them at odds. We have live, experienced captioners in studio to ensure we are as accurate as possible in what's sure to be a fast-paced program.
And just a note, for those of you using closed captioning at home, the captions you see are not tied to the captions that the candidates will see here tonight.
Thank you, Lisa. With that, let's get started. Mr. Fetterman, we're going to begin with you. Your political experience includes serving as the mayor of Braddock, a small borough near Pittsburgh, and 1 term as lieutenant governor. You're running for a seat that could decide the balance of power in Washington. What qualifies you to be a U.S. Senator? You have 60 seconds.
Hi, good night, everybody. I'm running to serve Pennsylvania. He's running to use Pennsylvania. Here's a man that spent more than $20 million of his own money to try to buy that seat. I'm also having to talk about something called the Oz rule, that if he's on TV, he's lying. He did that during his career on his TV show. He's done that during his campaign about lying about our record here. And he's also lying probably during this debate. And let's also talk about the elephant in the room. I had a stroke. He's never let me forget that. And I might miss some words during this debate, mush 2 words together, but it knocked me down, but I'm going to keep coming back up. And this campaign is all about, to me, is about fighting for everyone in Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down, that needs to get back up, and fighting for all forgotten communities all across Pennsylvania that also got knocked down, that needs to get back up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fetterman. Mr. Oz, you are a doctor, a businessman, and television personality. But this is your first run for elected office. What qualifies you to be a U.S. Senator from Pennsylvania? You have 60 seconds.
I'm running for the U.S. Senate because Washington keeps getting it wrong with extreme positions. I want to bring civility, balance, all the things that you want to see, because you've been telling it to me on the campaign trail. And by doing that, we can bring us together in a way that has not been done of late.
I want to know what extreme
positions
positions
to each other. John Fetterman takes everything to an extreme, and those extreme positions hurt us all. Let's take crime as an example, because it's been such a big problem. Maureen Faulkner accompanied me today to the studio. You know that her husband was a police officer in Philadelphia, was brutally murdered. John Fetterman, during this crime wave, has been trying to get as many murderers convicted and sentenced to life in prison out of jail as possible, including people who are similar to the man who murdered her husband.
This is
he does it without the rest of the poll board agreeing.
I covered this bullshit in a separate video, by the way.
Board. These radical positions extend beyond crime to wanting to legalize all drugs, to open the border, to raising our taxes. I want Washington to be civil again. Well, you need it to be less radical. John Fetterman, unfortunately, would bring that.
Mr. Oz, thank you. Lisa.
All right, gentlemen, on to the economy.
Every right-wing buzzword in
Pennsylvanians
the
are
world
struggling to put food on the table and gas in their cars. Our Next Star Emerson College The Hill poll shows the economy and inflation are the biggest concerns for voters. 39% of them listed that as the top issue. Beginning with you, Mr. Oz. You have blamed President Biden and reckless Democratic spending for the inflation crisis, but voters would like to hear your specific plan to cut spending. Please explain in 60 seconds.
Well, if you ask the U.S. government, they'll tell you they have 4% waste and fraud. Now, I've traveled over the Commonwealth and spoken to countless people. There was a lady in Beaver County at a county fair who told me with fear in her heart that she wanted to provide food for her son's highly nutritious chicken she wanted. She couldn't afford it anymore. That's a big problem. If we've got 4% waste and fraud, we ought to be able to take care of that. John Fetterman's, however, response continually is to raise taxes. He raised taxes as mayor. He tried to raise taxes as a lieutenant governor, 46%. That's a big tax rate. He supported Joe Biden's recent tax rate increase, and he's done that without paying his own taxes 67 times. I'll say that again. He hasn't paid his own taxes 67 times, but he's raising mine and yours. Those are radical positions. They're extreme. They're out of touch with the values of Pennsylvanians.
Raising taxes on the
and
rich
I can
is
make
why
the
he's
difficult
complaining.
decisions, as you do in the operating room as a surgeon. I'll make them cutting our budget as well to make sure we don't have to raise taxes on a population already desperately in pain from the high inflation rate.
Mr. Fetterman, I will allow a 15-second rebuttal. He has specifically said you have not paid your taxes and that you want to raise taxes on Americans. How do you respond?
Absolutely. The Oz rule, of course, he's lying. It was helping two students 17 years ago to help them, buy their own homes. They didn't pay the bills, and it got her paid, and it has never been an issue in any of the campaign before. It was all about nonprofit.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fetterman. Continuing with you, Mr. Fetterman, your opponent has criticized Democratic spending, as you heard. Has the Biden administration overspent? And if so, where do you think spending should be cut? You have 60 seconds.
No, here's what I think we have to fight about inflation here right now. That's what we need to fight about inflation, right now, because it's a tax on working families, and Dr. Oz can't possibly understand what that is like. He has 10 gigantic mansions. We must push back against corporate greed. We must make sure that we're also pushing back against price gouging as well, too. We also be able to make more in Pennsylvania and make more in America. When he had a choice to make his merchandise, the Oz label is on, he made it all in China. Who can you believe that can fight against inflation and pushing back against corporate greed, or somebody that is choosing working in China versus over American workers?
All right, I will allow a 15-second rebuttal.
I do wonder
to his
if
comments
this is going
that
to
you have been
hurt
making
Fetterman
things
or
in China.
make the
Mr.
audience
Oz.
I've been trying to talk
empathetic
about
to him.
policy issues with the people of Pennsylvania. As a doctor, I listen to their ideas and I want to talk about them. When John Fetterman brings up houses, the irony is he didn't pay for his own house. He got it for $1 from his sister. And he hasn't been able to earn a living on his own. He's lived off his parents. So it's not a topic that we should be debating on the stage. We should be talking about crime and inflation, the issues that are hurting Pennsylvanians that they're talking about at their kitchen table.
No, that's like he got his Pennsylvania house from his own inlays from $1.
Mr. Fetterman, we have to continue on. We'll continue on with a follow-up question to you, Mr. Oz. This one is just for you.
He can't respond?
You tweeted in August that you will never stop fighting to lower gas prices for Pennsylvanians. Does that include supporting a suspension of the federal gas tax? You have 30 seconds.
I'm supportive of reducing taxes, but we want to be thoughtful about the long-term game plan to get gas taxes down and, frankly, all energy prices down. I have gone around the Commonwealth. I've witnessed people say, I'm not going on vacation this year because I can't afford to pay to take my trailer to the campground. They can't even get there. What we have to do is ensure that we don't have increased inflation, and the best way to do that is reduce gas prices. John Fetterman has gone after the energy industry, called it a stain on Pennsylvania, and argued we have to ban fracking. That is disconnected from Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Mr. Oz. We will get to the issue of fracking later on in this discussion. But meantime, turning back to you, Mr. Fetterman, for a follow-up. In an op-ed for the Wilkes-Barre Times Leader, you wrote, quote, "It is time we crack down on the big price gouging corporations that are making record profits while jacking up prices for all of us. How do you plan to do this, sir? You mentioned going after price gouging corporations. How do you plan to do this? You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. We have to keep pushing back on that. And he would never make that choice to fight for families here in Pennsylvania. You know, he has never met an oil company that he doesn't swipe right about. You know, he has never been able to stand up for working families all across Pennsylvania. You know, we must push back. Inflation has hurt Americans and Pennsylvania's families, and it has given the oil companies record profits.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fetterman. Turning to the next issue, Dennis.
The minimum wage in Pennsylvania and at the national level currently sits at $7.25 an hour and has not been increased since 2009. Each of our neighboring states has raised minimum wages. You see them there on your screen, including New Jersey at $13 an hour and West Virginia at $8.75. But Pennsylvania has not followed suit. The first question is for you, Mr. Fetterman. Do you support raising the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour? Why or why not? You have 60 seconds.
Yeah, I do, absolutely. I think it's a disgrace at $7.25 an hour. And how can a man, you know, with 10 gigantic mansions, you know, has unwilling to talk about a willing wage for anybody? Imagine a single mom with 2 children, trying to raise with them, realizing making $31,000 a year, you know, $15 an hour. You know, I believe every work has dignity, and every paycheck must have dignity in it as well. True, I've always supported a living wage, and we make sure that everyone has economic security.
I have a follow-up for you, Mr. Fetterman. What do you say to small business owners who have told us that if the minimum wage were increased to $15 an hour, it would put them out of business? You have 30 seconds.
Now, we all have to make sure that everyone that works is able to, that's the most American bargain, that if you work full-time, you should be able to live in dignity as well, true. And I believe they haven't have any businesses you can't have businesses being subsidized by not paying individuals that just simply can't afford to pay their own way.
Okay, Mr. Fetterman, thank you. Mr. Oz, turning
I can
to you.
feel his frustration
Do you support
because he would be
raising the federal
fucking
minimum
kicking
wage
his ass,
to $15
Oz's
an hour?
ass,
Why or why not?
if he didn't
You
have that
60
fucking
seconds.
stroke.
I think market forces have already driven up the minimum wage. I was with a hotel worker actually here in Harrisburg a few months ago, and he was telling me how hard it was to live on the $15 an hour that he was getting paid. John Fetterman shoots too low. We want much more money than that. And there are many ways to achieve that, but John Fetterman thinks the minimum wage is his weekly allowance from his parents. He's not really cognizant of the real challenges of business owners who've got to balance that with employees. Thankfully, we have a solution. And John, you didn't answer the question. You can't put businesses out of commission in order to pay more wages, because the wages will go to zero, which is John Fetterman's radical plan if you really follow it to conclusion. Here's what I would do. We have one of the richest energy states in the country. I believe if we could unleash the energy beneath our feet here in Pennsylvania, there'd be plenty of money to go around. We'd have increased wages, a more reason for students to take vocational classes, to be able to learn trades, which I'm strongly supportive of. We'd also be able to pipe that gas, improve our economy, and reduce inflation. That's a plan that works. And it's
don't raise
humble
wages,
enough
make
that I
everyone
can
have
say
fossil fuel
broadly-
jobs? Like what?
I want to give you, Mr. Fetterman, a 15-second follow-up to what he just said about it.
This shit's so
Again,
stupid.
It's remarkable. He hasn't really had any answer that he actually had about that in his. He doesn't want to talk about having somebody having a living wage and having somebody able to survive. Again.
And I want to come back to you now, Mr. Oz, for a quick follow-up. What do you say to those Pennsylvanians that he just spoke of that are trying to survive on $7.25 an hour, which is less than all of our neighbors? You have 30 seconds.
Oh, I don't think you should have to survive on $7.25 an hour. I want the minimum wage up as high as it can go. I want to highlight that I have an agenda for prosperity, unlike John Fetterman. I want us all getting paid a lot more than $15. And I answered your question directly in a way that would preserve business owners.
But you don't
job
support
creators, so they
raising the
thrive,
wage.
And we'd have lots more employees entering the workforce and then prospering, getting paid $25, $35, $45 an hour. But we're never going to get there if we don't unleash our energy. And John Fetterman's stubbornness on calling it a stain on Pennsylvania is an insult to those workers.
To be clear, you
is
said you want
so-
people making a lot more, but that's not through a federal law of minimum minimum wage. That's through market forces.
Market forces should drive it up anyway, and it's already done that.
But they
You should be
haven't.
able to get paid much more than $15 an hour.
Thank you. Lisa.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Another big issue for voters is abortion. Mr. Oz, we will begin with you. You say that you're pro-life, but you do support abortion exceptions in the cases of rape, incest, and to protect the life of the mother. Aside from those three exceptions, should abortion be banned in America? 60 seconds.
There should not be involvement from the federal government in how states decide their abortion decisions. As a physician, I've been in the room when there's some
I don't give a
difficult
shit. Yes, ban
conversations
it.
happening. I don't want the federal government involved with that at all. I want women, doctors, local political leaders, letting the democracy that's always allowed our nation to thrive to put the best ideas forward so states can decide for themselves. Contrast that with my opponent, John Fetterman, who on this debate stage said that he would demand federally mandated rules for all states they'd have to follow that would allow abortion at 38 weeks on the delivery table, and he would force it to be subsidized by taxpayers across the country no matter what their personal beliefs are. That's radical.
Oh my God, like
That's
every other
extreme.
country in the
That is
world? Oh my
out
God,
of touch
crazy.
with what the
What an
average
idea.
voter in Pennsylvania believes is appropriate. Now, ironically, John Fetterman's been running ads on this topic, dishonest ads. I need to correct the record. They were so bad, they got pulled off television stations. Even on this station, he was running dishonest ads that I had pulled off. I haven't had a single ad pulled down. My ads tell the truth. John Fetterman's are a fiction of his imagination.
All right. I'm going to let Mr. Fetterman
He's done nothing
respond
but lie this
specifically
entire
about the ads being pulled off the air, and then we will return to you, Mr. Oz. Mr. Fetterman.
Yeah. I want to look into the face of every woman in Pennsylvania. You know, if you believe that the choice of your reproductive freedom belongs with Dr. Oz, then you have a choice. But if you believe that the choice for abortion belongs between you and your doctor, that's what I fight for. Roe v. Wade, for me, is
What's happening?
should be the law. He celebrated when Roe v. Wade went down, and my campaign would fight for Roe v. Wade, and if given the opportunity, to codify it into law.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fetterman. Going back to you, I want to circle back to something that you said, Mr. Oz. You mentioned the decision to regulate abortion should be something that is left up to the states. Now, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has introduced a federal bill to ban abortion after 15 weeks. I know that you've been asked about this question before. If the vote were held today, you were elected senator, you're on the Senate floor, the clerk calls you, there's a roll call vote. Are you a yay or a nay? How would you vote on the Lindsey Graham bill? You have 30 seconds.
Lisa, I don't even need 30 seconds. I'll give you a bigger answer. I am not going to support federal rules that block the ability of states to do what they wish to do. The abortion decision
State rights is the biggest excuse for anything. Now do civil rights. Oh, I will not support any federal law
John, you'll have your turn, John.
that tells states that
Continue, Mr.
I've been
Oz.
very clear.
you are equal regardless of your race. Like, it's such bullshit. It's a bullshit way to escape this
So
question.
when John purposely, knowingly misrepresents that to women, he scares them. He's purposely trying to alarm them, and the fear-mongering isn't working. Running tens of millions of dollars of ads claiming that I'm against all abortions when he knows that's not right, claiming that I'm going to be strict with Pennsylvania when he knows that's not honest. I can't be any clearer that I've been on the stage today. John Fetterman, if you just hear that one story today, I'd be really happy, but I know you're not going to, because you're going to go right back to telling the fables that you believe.
Mr. Oz, I want a 15-second clarification. You are saying that you would leave it up to the states, that the federal government does not have a role here. So are you saying you would not vote for the Lindsey Graham bill?
Any bill that violates what I said, which is the federal government interfering with the state rule on abortion, I would vote against. What I feel strongly about is that women in Pennsylvania understand what I'm saying and not believe that someone who's taken an extreme position like John Fetterman represents them, because most women do not believe that we should, at a federal level, codify 38 weeks of permission to have an abortion and have taxpayers pay for it.
So a yes or no on the Lindsey Graham bill?
I think I've answered this very, very clearly 3 times.
You haven't said
all right.
shit.
Thank you, Mr. Oz. Turning to you, Mr. Fetterman, you have frequently stated your belief that abortion should be safe and legal. Do you support any limits on when a woman can have an abortion? Please explain in 60 seconds.
You know, what I support on Roe v. Wade. That was the law of the land for 50 years. He celebrated when it fell down, and I would fight to reestablish on Roe v. Wade. That's what I run on. That's what I believe, and I've always believed that the choice belongs women and their doctors, and he believes that the choice should be with him or Republican legislators all across this nation.
All right.
I'm sorry,
They
I must
did lower
correct
it. It
that.
wasn't loud
Once
enough.
again, he's misrepresented what I've said, but he also said something very dishonest. On this debate stage, he said very specifically in his primary debate, when he was still debating, that he would support 38 weeks of mandated rules by the federal government that would prevent any state from blocking it. So that's not Roe versus Wade.
That's not true. I support Roe v. Wade. That's the simple.
John,
Roe
you
v. Wade.
said specifically you would support
All right,
a
thank you,
federal
Mr.
rule
Oz.
on 38
Mr. Oz,
weeks.
thank you.
But how
Thank
could-
you.
that's-
We-
I think
we
it's
wa-
important that John at least acknowledge that he's not honest here, because you said the
All right,
opposite
Mr.
on
Oz,
TV.
we must continue on. Mr. Fetterman, turning to you, we have a follow-up question. Would you support allocating federal funds to transport women who live in states where abortion is banned to states where they can get one, and why? 30 seconds.
I would. I would, because I believe abortion rights is a universal right for all women in America. I believe that abortion is health care, and I believe that that is a choice that belongs with each woman and their doctor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fetterman. Turning to the next issue, Dennis.
Thank you, Lisa. Let's turn to what has become one of the key themes of this race, fitness to serve. For these individual questions, there will be no rebuttals allowed. Mr. Fetterman, we begin with you. You suffered, as you mentioned a moment ago, a stroke 4 days before the May primary. Last week, you released this note from your doctor saying you can work full duty in public office, but you have not released your detailed medical records surrounding your stroke. Mr. Fetterman, will you pledge tonight to release those records in the interest of transparency? You have 60 seconds.
No. To me, for transparency is about showing up. I'm here today to have a debate. I have, speeches in front of 3,000 people in Montgomery County, all across Pennsylvania, big crowds. I believe if my doctor believes that I'm fit to serve, and that's what I believe is appropriate. And now with 2 weeks before the election, I have run a campaign, and I've been very transparent about being very open about the fact we're in use captioning. And I believe that, again, my doctors, the real doctors that I believe in, they all believe that I'm ready to be served.
Follow up, I didn't hear you say you would release your full medical records. Why not? You have 30 seconds.
No, again, my Dr. L believes that I'm fit to be serving, and that's what I believe is where I'm standing.
Okay, Mr. Fetterman, thank you.
It's not a good look.
Oz, you have built a lucrative career around medicine, but you've been criticized even by some fellow physicians for promoting, quote, unproven, ill-advised, and at times potentially dangerous treatments. What is your response to that? You have 60 seconds.
One of the great blessings of traveling around Pennsylvania is you run into people who have watched the show. They thank me very much for giving them life-saving advice on chronic issues like high blood pressure or dealing with their anxiety. The show did very well because it provided high-quality information that empowered people, which was exactly what I want to do when I'm a senator. Give people the power. Let them make decisions for their well-being.
He had
Now,
to
John
testify
Fetterman's
over his
approach to health
bullshit.
is a very dangerous one. He believes we should socialize medicine. He embraced this with Bernie Sanders, who he endorsed. The two candidates call themselves the two most progressive people in America. When you have socialized medicine, Dennis, you shut down the ability of people to get access to health care. Doctors stop practicing. There are no medications available. The lines get long. It's a disaster, and it puts people at risk. So I don't believe we should allow socialized medicine, the abolition of all private health care insurance in America, and radical positions like the ones taken by John Fetterman make him too extreme to serve. If we're going to bring balance to Washington, you got to bring people who understand the ramifications. Even Joe Biden called John Fetterman's idea, I'll quote him, preposterous.
Mr. Fetterman, I'm going to let you respond in just a minute, but I have a follow-up for you first, Mr. Oz. Did you or your company make a profit from promoting those products? You have 30 seconds.
I never sold weight loss products as described in those commercials. It's a television show, like this is a television show, so people can run commercials on the shows, and that's a perfectly appropriate and very transparent process. I ruffled a lot of feathers on my show because I told people
You're
the
a
truth. And I'm
doctor.
proud of that.
You
I'll do the
claim to
exact
be an
same thing as
expert.
a U.S. senator.
Oh.
But there's no way to defend what John Fetterman has done with socialized medicine. That is a radical departure from what we in America have accepted.
I
relationship between
respond to
John, you'll have your turn.
that.
John, let me finish.
He used his stature to take advantage of people. That's the
There must
fact.
be a relationship between a doctor and a patient, and that's what I would direct patients to do.
Thank you. Mr. Fetterman, he accused you of socialized medicine, supporting socialized medicine. What is your response?
Again, again, it's the Oz rule. He's on TV and he's lying. I never supported any of that thing. You know, he keeps talking about Bernie Sanders. You know, 3 years ago he was on his show and he hugged him and he said, "I love this guy." You know what? Why don't you pretend that you live in Vermont instead of Pennsylvania and run against Bernie Sanders? Because all you can do is talk about Bernie Sanders. Because my truth is that healthcare is a basic fundamental right. And I believe in expanding that, and I believe about supporting, fighting for health care, the kind of health care that saved my life.
Bernie was on Oz's show a few years ago.
He explicitly supported socialized
Mr. Oz,
medicine
we
with
have a
Bernie
lot
Sanders.
of topics to get to. I think we've finished. Lisa, you go ahead.
We are going to move on to the next topic, and this has come up earlier, and that is the
God.
issue of fracking. Pennsylvania only trails Texas in terms of natural gas production. Both of you have taken shifting positions on the issue of fracking. Mr. Oz, we begin with you. You wrote a column in 2014 calling for no fracking pending health study results. But in a video posted on social media in March, you said, quote, "Natural gas guarantees high-paying skilled jobs right here in Pennsylvania, so back off Biden, give us freedom to frack." Mr. Oz, please explain that changing position. 60 seconds.
I've been very consistent. Fracking has been demonstrated. It's a very old technology to be safe. It is a lifeline for this Commonwealth to be able to build wealth, similar to what they've been able to achieve in other states. For that reason, I strongly support fracking, drilling, the piping of that natural gas. In fact, I'd build a facility even in Philadelphia so we can export it to our allies and help them, the ones that are struggling now in Eastern and Western Europe because of the Ukrainian war. John Fetterman calls fracking a stain on Pennsylvania. He says that he would sign a moratorium to ban its continued use. He's against pipelines. He voted or supported the vote against the Keystone pipeline that ended up shutting it down. He supports Biden's desire to ban fracking on public lands, which are our lands, all of our lands together. This is a extreme position on energy. If we unleashed our energy here in Pennsylvania, it would help everybody. Why John Fetterman is so rigidly stuck on fighting
How about those healthcare studies,
energy companies
on fracking?
is stunning to me because it's the jobs I want. Tens of thousands of high-paying jobs to help.
I wonder what those showed.
Thank you, Mr. Oz.
Oz rule.
Mr. Fetterman, 15
I
seconds.
absolutely support fracking. In fact, I live across the street from a steel mill.
This
and
is a
they
bad
were going
position,
to
by the
frack
way.
to create
No,
their own
wrong.
energy in order to make them more competitive. And I support that. Living closer to anybody else in Pennsylvania for fracking to myself. I believe that we need independence with energy, and I believe I've walked that line my entire career. I believe Democrats...
Mr. Fetterman, I do have a specific question which you can continue on this topic, but you have made two conflicting statements regarding fracking. In a 2018 interview, you said, quote, "I don't support fracking at all. I never have." But earlier this month, you told an interviewer, quote, "I support fracking. I support the energy independence that we should have here in the United States." So, Mr. Fetterman, please explain your changing position. 60 seconds.
I've always supported fracking, and I always believe that independence with our energy is critical, and we can't be held, ransom to somebody like Russia.
And you're lying.
I've
and that's
always
shitty.
believed that energy independence is critical, and I've always believed that, and I do support fracking. I've never taken any money from their industry, but I support how critical it is that we produce our own energy and create energy independence.
It's unfortunate that
just
he
a second,
thinks he needs
Mr.
that
Oz,
position
I do
to
want
win
to
in
clarify
Pennsylvania.
something. You're saying tonight that you support fracking, that you've always supported fracking, but there is that 2018 interview that you said, quote, "I don't support fracking at all." So how do you square the two?
I do support fracking, and I support fracking, and I stand, and I do support fracking.
No, this is
Okay,
what
thank
happens
you,
when you
Mr.
have to
Fetterman.
change
On to
positions
Lisa,
for
there's
political
not just
reasons.
a statement
You
you
look
read.
fucking
There are
stupid.
multiple pictures of him signing
We
a
have to
moratorium.
go. We have to move on.
But we
No,
have
Oz
to
has
get
a-
the
now Oz has
fundamentals
a
of the
attack
truth out here.
We-
John
we
Fetterman
have
Moronic.
a lot of
over
topics.
again
Stupid.
took
We have a lot of
positions against
topics.
energy.
We have a lot of topics. You will have a chance to have
It'd be
that
better
in
for
your
him
voice.
to keep a consistent
energy
position
industry
and
We
lose
have to
whoever
move
loves
on.
fracking, who's not going to vote for you over that
Dennis,
issue.
on to the new
Mr. Oz,
topic.
Whatever
we must
morons
now
gonna do that.
turn to public safety. Mr. Fetterman,
Stupid.
Republicans have called you dangerously soft on crime. The Pennsylvania State Troopers Association has endorsed Democrat Josh Shapiro for governor. But in this race, it endorsed your Republican opponent, Mr. Oz. What is your response to those endorsements? And what is your response to accusations that you are, quote, dangerously soft on crime? You have 60 seconds.
No. I believe that I run on my record on crime. You know, I ran to be mayor back in 2005 in order to fight gun violence, and that's exactly what I did. And working with the police and working with our community, I was able to stop gun violence for 5.5 years as mayor. Ever accomplished before or since my time as mayor, because I'm the only person on this stage right now that was successful about pushing back against gun violence and being the community more safe. You know, all he's done is just put a plan up on his website in the last 24 hours. He has no experience. He has never made any attempt to try to address crime during his entire career, except showing up for photo ops here in Philadelphia.
I will give you 15 seconds to respond to that, and then I have a question for you.
The Fraternal Order of Police from Braddock, the small town he represented, endorsed me. They supported me because what he's saying is not true. Violence skyrocketed in Braddock. I mean, the town wasn't in a good shape when John got there. It got worse when he was there. People kept leaving. So, of course, you're going to have all kinds of aberrations. But, John, the city was dangerous under your leadership, and that's why the FOP endorsed me.
Mr. Oz, this past summer, Congress passed the first gun control bill in decades. That would not have happened without the support of the man you are running to replace Pat Toomey. How would you have voted on that bill, and would you continue Toomey's legacy as being one of the lead Republicans in Congress on pushing for gun reforms? You have 60 seconds.
I have been supported by Pat Toomey. I've enjoyed working with him. I think he's done a wonderful job. There are parts of that bill that I like a lot. For example, I like the fact that there are background checks that are being strengthened now, so we can make sure that people who should not have guns don't get guns. I also like the fact that there was a lot of money invested for mental health, which is an important part of the equation. I've been to Philadelphia. I've done prayer vigils with black clergy leaders who are desperately trying to save the people in their community. Half the murders in Philadelphia are committed by people under 18. We have got to get mental health services to these people, and it's not happening now. But part of the problem is that we have taken away the ability of police to do their job, and that's on John Fetterman. Because John Fetterman has taken such a harsh position against them. He's undermined them at every level, taken away some of their funding. He's pushed for Krasner, who he admires tremendously, and he's spoken highly of him just this week. He's taken his policies to a new extreme. He's argued that people should be let out of jail without any bail, no matter what they did to get in there. He's argued to release 1/3 of all prisoners.
That's about cash
1/3
bail.
of all prisoners out of touch.
Quickly,
All these
15 seconds. Would you have voted for that
a stream
Pat
of bullshit
Toomey
again?
supported bill? If you
I
were
would have
in the
tried to
Senate?
improve that bill. There are things that I think most of us appreciate. I wasn't there at the time, so I can't speak to what was possible. But I do know there are parts of that bill that do make sense, and the ones I described should be followed. Let's see how it works out.
Okay, thank you. Lisa.
On to our next issue, and that is illegal immigration. It has been a problem in the
Does
United
Fetterman
States
get nothing to
for
say on
decades,
guns?
but it is now spiking. U.S. Customs and Border Protection just released numbers for
Did I miss
fiscal
something?
year 2022. They show more than 2.7 million total enforcement actions in the U.S. That is the most ever. Mr. Oz, beginning with you. Republican governors in the South have been sending migrants to Democratic-run cities and states without a plan or without any coordination. It is certainly gaining a lot of attention, but is it an effective way to deal with the influx of migrants? You have 60 seconds.
Lisa, we have a catastrophe at the border, and we should not have sanctuary cities as John Fetterman has tried to introduce. But I've been into the parts of Philadelphia and Allentown and Reading where we have large Latino populations. I understand the challenges of the border. My father was an immigrant. My mother were immigrants. You know, I understand what legal immigration offers us, but the completely porous, open nature of our border, which John Fetterman supports, has created a humanitarian crisis with cartels profiting with human trafficking operations. They take the money, they buy narcotics from China and bring that into our country, and it's making every state a border state. Pennsylvania is already a border state because we're top 3 in the country in fentanyl overdoses. Lisa, I can't go anywhere where, and giving a big event where I don't meet multiple people who say their personal lives have been destroyed because of fentanyl overdoses. Yet John Fetterman not only wants an open border, not only supports sanctuary cities, but he wants to legalize all hard drugs in America, including narcotics. That is, I mean, out of touch with everybody. That radical position was tried in Oregon, which he endorsed.
Portugal decriminalized all drugs 20 years ago. Overdoses went down, drug use went down because they actually put money into healthcare, did not treat drugs as a criminal issue.
here his family's company was levied the largest fine for immigration hiring of immigrant illegals, and I think he should sit this one out about in terms of what a secure border.
All right, we do have a follow-up specifically for you, Mr. Fetterman.
This whole
Vice
setup is
President Kamala
terrible
Harris
for Fetterman,
says
who
the southern
had a stroke,
border is
needs
secure,
time
yet
to
we are seeing an
form his
unprecedented
sentences.
number of
15
migrants
seconds to
crossing.
respond is ridiculous.
Is the border secure? And if not, what would you do to fix what both parties are calling a crisis? You have 60 seconds, Mr. Fetterman.
I believe that a secure border can be compatible with compassion. I believe we need a comprehensive and bipartisan solution for immigration. That's what I believe. I don't ever recall in the Statue of Liberty did they say, take our tired, huddled masses and put them on a bus and use cheap political stunts about them. I believe we have to develop a comprehensive and bipartisan solution to address our issue here for immigration here in our nation.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. On to the next issue.
John's not addressing the elephant in the room, fentanyl.
We have to move on to the next issue. We will be circling back on that.
This is a pharmaceutical
now to foreign policy,
giant
Mr. Fetterman.
issue that got people stuck
what do you believe is
on
the
painkillers.
greatest foreign threat to the United States of America? You have 60 seconds.
I believe is right now is China. I believe China is not our friend, and I believe that we can't be able to push back, and we need to stand against China. And I believe that Dr. Oz has chosen to manufacture all of his merchandise on his name on it in China. Which one of us on this stage is going to stand up against and stand firm against China? And I believe that's our single biggest issue right now, to make sure that we address China and make sure that we know that it's not our friend.
Mr. Oz, what do you believe is the greatest foreign threat to the United States of America? You have 60 seconds.
The fact that our country is not projecting strength. Take, for example, what we're doing with Iran. In order to try to get them to give us a little oil so we can deal with the catastrophe that Russia has caused, we have gone to them and tried to sign a deal that would allow them once again to have the nuclear power to blow up Israel, which they promised they would do. John Fetterman supports that deal. It doesn't make any sense for America.
Your party ripped up the Iran deal, you stupid moron.
Strong voice and the energy we have in our
that
country.
Issue
that
was
we have
done.
Control over our future. And the best way for America to establish
then Trump
dominance
fucked it up.
is to unleash the energy here in Pennsylvania and across the country. By not doing that, not only do we cause all kinds of problems with local jobs and inflation, but we're destroying our ability to remain energy dominant, and we're not able to become allies like we should be for countries like European nations, which are going to struggle with their coldest winter ever. It's the best way to punch Putin back and to teach China a lesson is American energy to reign supreme. And John Fetterman doesn't like American energy, and they are scared of him because they know they can't trust him. He's proven it.
Mr. Oz, thank you. Lisa.
All right, on to our
so
next
you support
issue.
nationalizing
in our
the industry?
Next Star poll, a hypothetical rematch between Joe Biden and Donald
All
Trump
this idea.
in 2024 would be a statistical tie in Pennsylvania. 46% of people said they would vote for former President Trump, 45% for President Biden. Mr. Oz, would you support a Trump 2024 run, and why 60 seconds?
I'll support whoever the Republican Party puts up. And I have reached out across the aisle on my campaign because I want to bring balance to Washington. And I've tried to work with Democrats and Republicans and people in the middle, and people unsure, and people who forgot, and people who got angry with where their party was headed. I want to bring us together to make this country do what it's always been able to do. Unify, not divide, and address the problems as a surgeon, because in the OR, that's what I do. I just fix the big problem in front of me. John Fetterman, however,
so
cannot
much
go to
fucking
Washington
bullshit.
and work with the other
Just
side because
so
he doesn't
much
really get along
bullshit.
with his own side. He criticized Joe Biden for not spending enough money and not sidling up close enough to Bernie Sanders. He says he won't work with Joe Manchin. He said, if you like Joe Manchin, don't vote for me. So if you're picking fights with your own party, you're not going to be able to reach across the aisle to the other side. His extreme positions have made it untenable for Republican lawmakers. We need to send someone to Washington who understands the importance of balance, sensible decision-making, and in common sense.
This is such a frustrating debate because Oz is so full of shit.
It's not John Fetterman.
And Fetterman is just, he can't do what he needs to do because of his situation.
You. He has endorsed
you. It's very
you.
frustrating.
Why won't you fully commit to supporting him in 2024?
Oh, I do. I would support Donald Trump if he decided to run for president.
All right.
But this is bigger than one candidate. This is a much bigger story about how we are going to build a bigger tent to let more Americans feel safe.
Are you concerned about the ongoing legal investigations involving the former president? 30 seconds, sir.
I haven't followed them very carefully. I've been campaigning pretty aggressively. They'll work themselves out. I have tremendous confidence in the American legal system, and I believe law and order reigns supreme. But speaking about that topic, there's one person on this stage who's broken the law, we believe. John Fetterman took a shotgun, chased an unarmed African-American man, and put the gun, apparently, according to that man, to his chest.
You were asked about January 6th.
Pulled over by the police.
What the fuck is this?
You were the mayor at the time. Why haven't you
look at what he does.
To that unarmed, innocent black man
what
who you put a
worm.
shotgun to his chest?
All right, we will allow a 30-second response to that, Mr. Fetterman.
Oh my God! I hope people can see through this garbage. This man answers no fucking questions.
I had the opportunity to defend our community as the chief law enforcement officer there. Everybody in Braddock, an overwhelmingly majority community of black community, all understood what happened. You know, they understood what happened, and everybody agreed that, and nobody believes that it was anything about me making a split-second decision to defend our community as well.
I wouldn't even address it. Just move
Mr.
on.
Oz, please.
He changed the subject. Point that out.
With Mr. Fetterman, turning to you right now, you support a Biden run. Do you support a Biden run in 2024? Why in 60 seconds?
That's honestly, it's up to his choice whether he, and if he does choose to run, I would absolutely support him. But ultimately, that's ultimately only his choice.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fetterman. A follow-up question on this. Our Next Star poll shows 51% of Pennsylvania voters disapprove of the president's job performance. You have publicly supported many of his policy positions. Are there any that you disagree with? 30 seconds.
No, I just believe he needs to do more about supporting and fighting about inflation. And I do believe he can do more about that. But at the end of the day, I think Joe Biden is a good family man, and I believe he stands for the union way of life. And I believe that unemployment is already down to the lowest level in the last 50 years.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Dennis.
Let's turn now, gentlemen, to the issue of Social Security. It is only fully funded through 2034. Many Americans are worried that they will never receive their full benefit or have to accept cuts to their benefits. Mr. Fetterman, how are you going to make sure it is there for them? You have 60 seconds.
We need to make sure that Dr. Oz and the Republicans believe in cutting Medicare and Social Security. And I believe that they have to support and expand Social Security. And if somebody send me to Washington, D.C., I would support and stand and to support Social Security.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oz. Same question to you. How are you going to make sure that Social Security is available for future Americans? You have 60 seconds.
We made a deal with the wonderful seniors of our nation. They worked their hearts out. They paid into a program. No one's going to touch it on my watch except to make sure that it's stronger than it is right now. Social Security, Medicare, which I know a lot about as a doctor, are the fundamental element of security for our seniors. And
Oz is going to stand up to the rest of the Republican Party.
John Fetterman, again, has been running ads and saying that I'm against those with no proof. I've never said anything different than what I'm saying to you on this stage. But in an effort to fearmonger with people who are older and can be taken advantage of, he'll run these ads. John, it's reprehensible.
This is what the Republican Party is doing.
These things. You haven't shown up on the campaign trail. You haven't answered questions from voters, not once on the campaign trail. You haven't answered questions from media once on the campaign trail, even just to show off that you could do it. And this is the only debate I could get you to come to talk to me on. And I had to beg on my knees to get you to come. And if it wasn't for Dennis probably getting involved, I don't think it would have happened. Seniors need to know more about your radical left positions, and I need to be able to tell them about my positions. That's what democracy is built on. We exchange ideas, the voters decide. You have hidden from them.
Mr. Oz, I'm going to let you have 15 seconds in a moment, Mr. Fetterman, but can you give us a specific example of what you would do to protect Social Security?
Well, for one, we have to make sure that it adequately increases with the higher inflation rates that we have. So we've got to make that 4% of wasted money that right now is in the budget redirected appropriately. And one of the first places that I would use it is Social Security and Medicare. And here's the reason. One of the worst things we can do to a people is give them bad quality care. And so if you have if you have people who are not going to see a doctor, for example, because they can't afford it, they'll get sicker. Bad medicine means more cost. No one benefits.
Thank you. Mr. Fetterman, he said a few
So
things
you
a moment
support
ago. I want to
Medicare
give
for
you
all?
15 seconds to respond to those.
There's so much garbage.
Now, again, I can't just say one thing other than that Dr. Oz would not support, and he would support cutting Medicare. And that's
John, why do you say that? I've never said that.
It's absolutely a fact. It's a fact. You would have voted against the Inflation Reduction Act, which has dropped our prescription drugs, and he doesn't believe.
Okay, gentlemen, we need to move on. Lisa.
All right, we are moving on to the topic of education. The cost of college tuition is now out of reach for many, many families. Our question is for both of you. We start with Mr. Oz. What is your plan to bring down the cost of higher education long term? You have 1 minute, Mr. Oz.
I've worked in academic medical centers my whole life, so I'm in higher education. And I can tell you the reason the prices have gone up sixfold in the last 40 years is not because the education quality is better. We've added extra layers of middle level individuals who don't actually improve the quality education, in my opinion. There's a lot of expenses now incurred by these institutions, and it's not right for the American people to be stuck with the bill. I would push them to offer more electronic classes. Half the kids don't live on campus anyway. John Fetterman's approach, however, is not to deal with the unnecessarily high costs, but just to pay it. So if you want to pay students who didn't pay their loans back, basically what John Fetterman and Joe Biden are arguing for is for plumbers who didn't go to college and couldn't, for a bunch of reasons, afford it, to pay the bills of lawyers who went to graduate school and haven't paid their debt back. I don't think that's right for the American people. We want a fair system. Drop the cost down by pushing for more value for the money we're spending, and then ensure there's a high-quality education that lets people make a living when they graduate.
All right, I will allow a 15-second rebuttal specifically on the issue of student loan debt, which Mr. Oz was referring to. Mr. Fetterman.
Again, Dr. Oz, loves free money when it's a $500,000 tax break on one of his, homes down in a ranch in Florida, and whether it was a $50 tax break, about his farm in Montgomery County. So it's about supporting and helping, young earners, students to give them a break. I believe that supporting.
All right, let me just ask specifically with the plan to ease student loan debt, the debt forgiveness of $10,000, $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients. Do you support that position?
I do absolutely support that. I believe, like I said, it's about helping young learners, be able to get a better start, getting off in the start of their life. And I do believe that, and I believe a majority of Americans support that as well too, helping young learners.
All right, Mr. Fetterman, I want to ask you the same question that I asked Mr. Oz. And what is your plan to bring down the cost of higher education long term? You have 1 minute.
Yeah, I don't think he didn't answer. He didn't answer the question whatsoever.
I did answer the question.
Mr. Oz, please give him a moment.
You didn't. I fundamentally believe that every quality public university education should be very affordable in every state, and I think that needs to be a significant investment. To make sure that anyone be able to afford to go to get a 4-degree university degree, at Penn State or at Pitt or any state schools, to make it much more affordable. And that means acquiring a significant investment to make sure and create it affordable that every family can afford.
How exactly, Mr. Fetterman, do you propose doing that to make it more affordable for families?
No, I just believe, making it that much more, it costs too much, and I believe providing the resources to reduce the tuition to allow families to be able to afford it.
All right, we have a follow-up question. This one now is for both of you. This is from News Nation viewer Ann Andrews, a registered nurse from Conneautville near Erie. Ann is a vocational educational instructor for a university and a practicing registered nurse.
If you were elected, could you please tell me what you would be doing for vocational education in the state of Pennsylvania as well as our nation?
So, Mr. Oz, if elected, what would you do for vocational education? You have 30 seconds.
I've visited vocational schools. I have an answer. But, John, because obviously I wasn't clear enough for you to understand this, there's no question that cutting out the middle levels of higher education and providing digital programs would reduce the cost of education. It's a concrete set of ideas that I'd like to move on. With regard to vocational education, this is really important for us to allow our trade unions to get more closely linked with the vocational schools. I was in a vocational school in Westmoreland, and they have about 1,000 kids. They could take 2,000 kids. Funding those programs is the smartest way to invest our tax dollars. We'll turn out twice as many children who have a job as soon as they graduate. It supports our trade unions who want those kids in their positions anyway. It makes the whole program work.
Thank you, Mr. Oz. Mr. Fetterman, if elected, what would you do for vocational education? You have 30 seconds.
Again, I think it's just the same way university for degrees as well too. Supporting that and partnering with the unions and making sure that vocation training are is affordable, and providing the resources to make sure everyone has the opportunity. Going to college isn't the right choice for every person, but going to those kind of vocational schools, able to create a career to reach a lot of high salary, and again, supporting to reduce those costs are critical too.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Dennis.
Moving now, multiple members of Congress, specifically Democrats, have called for the Supreme Court to be expanded. Candidates, we want to know where you stand on this. Mr. Fetterman, should the Supreme Court be expanded? And if so, by how many justices? You have 60 seconds.
I don't believe, I don't stand, and I don't believe in that. I fundamentally believe that even though I don't agree with the ideological breakup of the Supreme Court, I believe it's not about changing the rules. It's about acknowledging where we're at, much the way the Republicans want to try to change the Constitution about how our Supreme Court in Pennsylvania is going to be done, and I don't support that. So I think,
and they're going to keep fucking doing it because they have power, and that's how they're going to use it.
And I do not believe.
So you have to fight back with power.
Supreme Court.
Mr. Oz, same
wrong
question
answer.
To you. Should the
Bad.
Supreme Court be expanded? If so, by how many justices? You have 60 seconds.
I would never touch the makeup of the Supreme Court, and I would advocate to leave it the exact same size it is. But John Fetterman's radical positions have spilled over into what he would do in Washington. One of the first things he has said, and he came back to the campaign trail, is that he wanted to bust the filibuster, which means removing the brakes on the Senate overreacting. That's
true. That is true.
But if you do that, then you would free up the Democrats in the Senate without getting the normal amount of votes to actually expand the Supreme Court, add more states, do things that are detrimental to the well-being of the country. So I think
add more
your
states
first day back
and
arguing that we should
represent
get rid of the
people in states
filibuster
that
is
have
a
no
dangerously
vote?
radical move that would hurt Washington. It's
Democracy in
not in our
action.
nation's best interest.
Fuck off.
Thank you both very much.
All right, at this time, we are ready for our closing statements. You each have 90 seconds to convince Pennsylvanians to vote for you on Election Day. Mr. Fetterman, you are first, 90 seconds.
Once again, I would just like to say that my campaign is all about fighting for anyone in Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down, that had to get back up again. I'm also fighting for any forgotten community all across Pennsylvania that ever got knocked down, that had to be made to get back up. I've made my entire career dedicating to those kinds of pursuits. I started as a GED instructor back in Braddock over 20 years ago because I believe it's about serving Pennsylvania, not about using Pennsylvania for their own end interests as well. To me, careers are revealed by your real underlying values. And my values have always been about fighting for forgotten communities all across Pennsylvania.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fetterman. Mr. Oz, your final thoughts, 90 seconds.
I've loved traveling to the four corners of the beautiful Commonwealth, and I've heard your problems. I'm a surgeon, doctor. I listen to what you say, and I'm trying to help address them today. I've talked to seniors worried their Social Security checks wouldn't go far enough with the raging inflation. I've talked to couples want to make their first down payment on a new house and they can't afford it anymore because of interest rates. I've talked to families.
You want to cut Social Security.
Mr. Fetterman, it's his turn for his closing.
I've talked to families worried about fentanyl showing up in their mailbox and literally taking the lives of their children, who they find blue in bed. I've talked to families who won't let their kids go outside because of the crime wave that's been facilitated by left radical policies like the ones John Fetterman has been advocating for. But here's the deal, right? None of this has to happen. This is all very addressable. I'm a surgeon. I'm not a politician. We take big problems, we focus on them, and we fix them. We do it by uniting, by coming together, not dividing. And by doing that, we can get ahead. But I've got one question to challenge you with. Just one question.
Tell me who's been dividing.
Take what I'm saying to heart. Ask
This
yourself
is
this and others
such
in
garbage.
your family. Are you unhappy with where America's headed? I am. And if you are as well, then I'm the candidate for change. I'm a living embodiment of the American dream. I believe we're the land of opportunity, the land of plenty. I believe we can balance a budget without recklessly spending. I believe we can have an unleashed energy policy that helps us all. I believe that we can have safe city streets and a secure border so legal immigrants can come across, but you shut the fentanyl out. I believe we can give parents choice in where their kids go to school. We can have affordable health care. But most of all, I believe in you. And if you can do this together, and we can, I would ask for your vote on Election Day. God bless you.
We do have one final question, an important issue in Pennsylvania. The eyes of the state are on this debate tonight, but on Sunday they will be on Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia as the state's two NFL teams go head-to-head. Mr. Fetterman, Steelers or Eagles, and why?
Oh, clearly, always for the Steelers.
Mr. Oz.
I'll be at the game rooting for my Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Gentlemen, thank you both so much. This does conclude our debate. We do want to thank our candidates for being with us,
so
Mr. Fetterman
phony.
and Mr. Oz.
Oh my
and for all
God.
of you at home who have been watching, thank you so much.
And we want to thank our
He's
team
up there with,
at
like, Ted
WHTM
Cruz.
for hosting us at their studios
Holy
tonight.
frig.
Remember, voters, that Election Day is just 2 weeks from
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oz is so fucking cringy. It's insane. So like this was a bad debate for Fetterman. I mean, it's not his fault. He had a stroke. But it was bad. And he also has some bad positions. He's bad on fracking. There was something else that he was bad on. I forget what it was now. But the choice here is clear. Fetterman, on most issues, is much better. On every issue, he's better than Oz. But on just in terms of who these two candidates are, it's been clear that Fetterman actually gives a shit. Oz is this is the guy who lied to his millions of viewers to sell them on some bullshit that he himself admitted was bullshit. And then he goes on in the debate and claims, no, he didn't. It was a TV show. Where you were a doctor using your status to tell people what they should or shouldn't be doing, like buying fake ass weight loss pills. So that shows you who Oz is. That's all you need to know in terms of who actually gives a shit and who is in it for themselves. That's the beginning and end of the discussion. It doesn't matter if Oz is a Democrat, doesn't matter if he's a Republican, doesn't matter if he's independent. He is a piece of shit. That is a fact. He admitted it himself. And yeah, that's all you need to know, really. But anyways, I've covered, this race a million times on their actual positions, on things that have happened. Let me grab some super chats. In terms of a summary, I didn't take many notes, as much as I thought I would, because I was watching the debate. I was hoping for some kind of moment, but both candidates didn't do well, in my opinion. Oz obviously performed, I guess, better, but he's also so fake that they both didn't do well, but for different reasons. Fetterman, because he clearly is still recovering from a stroke. Oz, because he is a complete fraud. So they both failed, in my opinion. But in terms of how this will appear to viewers, well, considering most viewers skew older, and I don't know, I think most people are going to take from this that they preferred Oz just because of the fact that he could get answers out, unfortunately. But it is what it is. Let me go through some super chats here. Where was I? Fetterman gonna server up twatamole. Oz drinks his own pee with civility. That's from Sam Cedar's right bicep. John says the big boy better win and mollywop Oz. Buddha Mouse Emporium. Am I reading that right? Says or just sends me a chat. Then says, I am a small business owner and want my workers to have a living wage. There you go. You're a good person. Paul David says there should be some strong whiskey in that cup. It was just beer, not strong whiskey. Ask Aunt Debbie became a member. Thank you. And sent a super chat. Thank you so much. Just Synth? Am I saying that right? Is a member. Thank you. Lawn Gnome says, do you think catering to clips and sound bites have hurt debate's ability to actually inform voters? Does corporate media make that worse? Yes and yes. When you're forced to restrict debate answers to 60 seconds or 30 seconds or 15-second responses, that inherently favors just spectacle as opposed to actual knowledge and information. So, yeah, unfortunately, debates generally are not really about who is actually correct. It's about who performs better. So, I enjoy debates. They're fun to watch. They're, these fun spectacles. But it doesn't mean, you could argue Trump won one of the debates with, Hillary or Biden. It doesn't mean that he's the better choice for president. So, debate is all performance, right? So, some people are better at it than others, and some people are able to, combine performance with the correct positions, and that's good. But most people can't, and they're often one or the other. Lawn Gnomes also says, I'd love to see a timing equity breakdown of how much they let Oz ramble. These short clips are stupid because candidate never actually stops on time. At the same time, Fetterman, a lot of his answers were pretty short. And I think that was because he just could not get out what he wanted to get out. Like, I could see... Imagine how frustrating it is to not be able to say what your mind is thinking. And that's the situation that Fetterman is in, where he is limited, not by his, intellect, but by his actual motor skills. Mike says, doesn't seem recovered from stroke. Oh, no, he's not recovered. Far right trolls in the chat. Whatever. They had to subscribe to chat, so thank you for subscribing. By the way, if every single person watching right now subscribes, then I will likely hit 500,000 subscribers. Subscribing is free. All you got to do is hit the button. So what if I hit that on stream right now? Wouldn't that be amazing? Don't you want to be a part of history and be here when we hit that number? So I'll keep an eye on that. But we'll see. All right, let me finish off these super chats here. Oh no, I'm at 499,103. So if we get 900 more, come on, jump on. All right. Kelly O'Hara. I'm really bad at names, by the way. That's either Kaylee or Kelly. I apologize. Oz was more well-spoken tonight, but we all know he doesn't mean a word of it. He trying to be populist for the cameras. What a phony. Yeah. It was all bullshit. The idea that Oz supports Social Security and Medicare. This is the guy that is running in the Republican Party that tried to even strip Obamacare away, which was not a lot, which was a Band-Aid on the healthcare system. What they should be fighting for, what Democrats should be fighting for, is a single-payer system. Like, other major countries, a actual universal healthcare system that you all pay into a single payer, a single pool. Everyone benefits. Healthcare free at the point of use. As a Canadian, I know this. Never in my life have I had any problems with our healthcare system. I mean, look, there are issues, of course, in other countries, including Canada and the UK. Issues usually come down to underfunding, but it's a hell of a lot better, both in Canada and the UK, than what Americans experience, especially for those who are less fortunate and can't afford healthcare. So, anyways, I've done, a shit ton of videos on Medicare for All, but you can go look those up. Donald James says, do you think this debate will voters' minds? I think you meant to say will impact voters' minds. It depends how many watched it, right? It depends how the media covers it tomorrow. So, potentially, the thing is, though, people know he's recovering from a stroke, right? So because of that, it's hard to conclude too much from that debate, really. Again, that's assuming we're talking about people with a level head. But if you go in there thinking, is this how Fetterman is all the time? Then, there are going to be people that are swayed by it for sure. But I don't know. It's hard to say. But if it does have an impact, I think it hurts Fetterman. Fran says, you're doing a great job. It's a stressful thing you're doing. Keep it up. Thank you, Fran. Covering shitty news every day is stressful. But that's why sometimes I pick the good ones. So, every day isn't too bad. Daniel says, David Dole is awesome. The Wizard of Oz had a fraud at the end. Dr. Oz is a fraud. Coincidence? I think not. Sabes says, do we think Fetterman should have declined the debate? Would it have been a worse look to not do it? That's a good question and one that I was thinking about. And I think I would have declined the debate in his shoes. Yeah, I would have. I don't think it helps him to show up. I don't, unfortunately. Kelly, there we go. My name is pronounced Kelly. That's what Kelly says. Thank you, Kelly, for clarifying. Oh my God. Anything else? Anything else? I don't know. I think that's it. I'm hoping I can take tomorrow off. I may just do that. I posted 2 videos today. I've been doing usually 1 a day at this point, but check out my 2 videos. One is on Adidas dropping Kanye. I also get into some history about Adidas. What's all that about? Go look it up. You may not, or go look it up as in go watch the video. You may not know the history of how Adidas was formed. So I discussed that there. Also, Charlie Crist Rex DeSantis in the debate with one question. That was incredible. And I don't think Chris is a good politician. He's very conservative compared to most Democrats. But it was wild to see deer in the headlights DeSantis just stunned by a very simple question. So check out that video as well. And again, hit subscribe before you leave the stream, and hit like. Thank you, Lawn Gnomes. Yes, hit like. Also, we have a Discord if you join the Patreon page. Right there, therationalnational.com/join. Links are below the video. There's also other ways to support if you want, like PayPal links, Twitch, all that shit. So if you want to support, and if you join Patreon, you get a link to the Discord. Also, by the way, if you're a member on YouTube, you can also get a link to the Discord. I just don't know how to message you. Actually, no, I do know how to message you all at once. I will do that. There is a community tab, so I will message you all at once and also give you the Discord link. So there you go. All right. I think we're good. Got all the super chats. I don't believe I missed anybody. All right. Goodbye. Have a good night. I'm going to go play some video games now, all right? Goodbye. If I can find the bye. Here it is. Bye-bye.